Hey. Huh? Yeah? It's gonna be late.
Okay, go ahead and start. All right, we'll call this meeting to order. First up, closed session. Be it resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby enters into a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.2-3711, 5, discussion considering a prospective business or industry or an expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Project number 2023-020. And then under I, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining or resignation of specific officers, appointees, or employees of any public body, one county administrator evaluation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Into closed meeting. Okay, do I have a motion to come out of closed meeting?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs? Aye. Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Okay, certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has conveyed a closed meeting on this date pursuant to the affirmative recording vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification resolution applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
At this time, I'd ask our County Administrator, Mr. Meadows, if he would lead us in invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely. If you're able, please stand, and I'll lead us in the moment of silence and then the pledge. Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, first up, presentations, recognition, and awards, Virginia Department of Transportation. Mr. Clark. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Not a lot of updates here, but we'll talk a little bit about some of the maintenance things we've been doing, because this was for the most part, since my last meeting was the last month of our fiscal year, so we're trying to make our budget balance out, and we did a good job with that. We spent pretty much all of the money we had to in Montgomery County. So we've been doing a lot of machining of roads, the gravel roads, of course. Did get to do some patching, patched Meadow Creek and George's Run, patched some on Allegheny Springs. I don't know if we got all of them out there, but also Mount Pleasant and on Pilot Road. Been doing some dishing, Old Rough Road, Little Camp, Catawba, and out on Chestnut Ridge, and got to some of the brush cutting. We've also been working on some of the overlay projects, mostly out 615. That's going to go all the way into Floyd County, as well as on Huffville Road. The only other major thing, we did a project down on Mossy Springs Road, out Catawba Road. That was a site distance problem. Took a large bank off the side. That was with some safety funds, and we had to do a little bit of patchwork on that. So there's also some shoulder work there on Catawba Road. This summer, we hope to get the 6-year plan project for this summer done. That's the short section of Craig Mountain Road that is unpaved right now. We have a section in between 2 paved sections that we're going to get to. And then the only other thing, just a little bit of news and a little bit of warning coming up on the 81 project in Roanoke County in Salem at exit 137 is where that project basically kind of starts. There's some bridge parapet work. That's the concrete side parts. That's been needing repairs. We've been trying to find a good time to do it. Weather has to be right for the concrete work and everything. So they're going to be doing that this upcoming weekend. It will require closing a lane for a couple days, and so we're going to do a lot of signing for detours. We're not gonna, it's gonna be like a suggested detour. The problem is you can't put, we're gonna try to get as many people off 128 and maybe at 118 and use Route 11 as possible. You can't really put them back on at Dixie Caverns. That's 132, so you're back on right before. So they're gonna have to go through Salem to avoid that. It won't be all. There'll be a lane open, but as you know, one lane closed on 81 can back it up pretty far. And what we're trying to stay away from is such a lengthy backup that it backs up south of the 128, which is now when you're coming, if you are to come down the mountain, you'll see a line of stop traffic. So we're going to look to avoid that. We'll be monitoring it constantly. It's going to start Sunday night / Monday morning and go through Tuesday. I'm not sure at what point Tuesday it'll be taken up, but that should give them the time to do the repair work they need as far as that project goes. So news release will be coming out, so it'll be in the papers and stuff tomorrow, and we'll keep you updated on the progress of that as we're a lot of people working real hard all week this week trying to figure out how to keep the queues down to a minimum and get traffic through. So that's the big news now. But that's all I have.
Thank you. On that, will they be working through the night?
They'll be working constantly through that, yeah. That's, going to get it done in a 2-day frame.
Okay, very good. We'll go through around the room, starting off with Supervisor Shepherd.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Supervisor Bone.
I'd like children at play signs at the cheese factory and the top of Nellie's Cave Road. Do I propose that during new business, or what do I do? Because I know we have to approve it.
Yes, that's the board. We just write a permit, so when the board decides that that's what they want to do, you work with our land use people, can work with the signs, and we can get it done, but the board does have to.
How much does something like that cost?
I'm not sure. They're not, I mean, they're.
Less than $10,000?
Yeah, I was going to say it's in the hundreds.
And so how do I propose that for a vote?
I think we can take that under consideration and have it on the upcoming agenda.
Great, I'd like
Yeah.
that, thank you.
Yeah, you just let me know the locations. We'll work with a sign. We work with each county's sign people a little bit differently, just like the 911 signs, which are also the county's responsibility. But because we like to keep signs fairly uniform, we work with them to get them made, and then we put them up and stuff like that. So
Sounds
it's a pretty good system we have going there, but we'll get it.
Thank you.
Very good. Supervisor DeMotts.
Just one follow-up question. The 81 closure, is that going to be northbound or southbound?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's northbound.
Northbound?
Yep.
Okay. And thanks for doing that ahead of Virginia Tech and Radford starting back.
Yeah, that's gonna be, all that coming back. And then we were also looking at, people will figure out how to get around. And one of the problems we have right now is that Bradshaw Road is closed because of bridge repair. But that should be done this week. So they're supposed to be done with Bradshaw Road Friday.
Thank
Right
you.
now, it's being detoured on Flatwood, so it's not that bad a detour in fact, we worked on that detour route when we were doing another bridge on North Fork Road a few years ago, and that's a pretty good detour, actually.
Supervisor King.
I have no questions, thank you.
Supervisor Fidzikowski.
I had a couple of citizens' complaints about the brush growing out into the roadway on Willis Hollow and also on Mount Pleasant. And I was on my way to the Blacksburg Parade for 4th of July, and I went down Den Hill. I guess it's been a while since I've been down there. That is scary, how much that has grown into the road. And you've got plenty of curves in there. I don't know how somebody hasn't had a offset head-on collision because you feel like you're going to be whacking into all these tree branches, so you move over just
Right.
naturally, and of course in a curve that could be bad. But
Okay.
but the another one I saw, you had mentioned the pothole patch, and there's still a few that were missed, and there was one that I think the commercial vehicles, which we're seeing more and more of them on Allegheny Springs Road, I don't know where they're all going. I didn't think Floyd County was booming that much, but it's right at the south end of Strawberry Circle. And it started out as just some broken pavement, then it got a few inches deep. But I don't know if it was the last rain that we had that did it, but that pothole now, it looks like it's about a foot deep. The good news is that it catches the commercial vehicles, because it's not really in the path of regular cars.
Okay.
But if somebody in a car was to hit it, or a motorcycle, that'd be it.
Yeah.
It's a scary one when I saw it, so. But that's all I got.
All right, thank you.
Vice Chair Biggs.
Okay, just following up on the 81, you said it would be next Sunday through Tuesday?
Sunday the 16th, beginning
Okay.
Sunday the 16th, Monday morning, though. And one thing we will be doing is taking traffic. We're not going to take all traffic on 81 off, but there are certain places where we will limit access to 81, so they're not getting on and getting right into a line. And one of those places will actually be at 118, where anyone getting on the collector distributor roads right there at the 118 A, B, and C exits will be detoured to Route 11 at that point. And we're working with the town of Christiansburg with them on the signal there at Tower Road. And then there'll be limited access onto 81 further on down, so they're not getting on at, let's say, at Dixie Caverns and going right into the queue.
Yeah, I was just thinking about all that because, around 4 o'clock, if you're coming from Roanoke back here, it is just bumper to bumper over on the other side going north. And there doesn't seem to be a reason for it. Like, there's no accident. It's just bumper to bumper just because of how much traffic there is. So I can't imagine how all that's going to work.
Monday evening
getting
will
it-
probably be the highest volume part of
Yeah,
that, yeah.
oh, wow. And so all those localities are going to know that this is going to happen.
Yes, yeah, we're working with Salem. The city of Salem is going to feel a huge
Yeah, so
impact.
they'll all stay in their houses.
Right.
Okay. What's the timeline to get all of that work finished on 81, both, sides and all?
I'm not sure what the current one is. I'll bring those dates of expected ones, because when that one's done, there's another project that they're lined up in certain
Right.
sequence, but I can have that for you.
Yeah, I do have people ask me that, and
Yeah.
don't really know. But yeah, that'd be good to know. Thank you, David.
Sure.
And Mr. Clark, several things. First of all, I did receive several compliments from citizens from Route 114 on the speed limit lowering from 45. Then I had a complaint from Supervisor Fidzikowski that why do we do lowering that speed limit 45? He was just joking. But we did have some compliments. He was just joking. But I did have some compliments this couple weeks saying that they were glad that
Good.
45 seems to be alleviating some of the traffic problems for that. And this is just a follow-up within the town limits about if people, and right now you're going to not allow traffic to come off at the 118 A, B, and C there. Is that correct?
They will be taken, if they're trying to get on northbound 81 at 118, they'll be detoured back onto Route 11.
Okay.
So if you're coming from Blacksburg and using the bypass, and you normally go down there in a Falling Branch school and get on right there, you'll get on right there and then get right back off.
Get right back
Yeah.
off, yes. So that also reminded me of the town limits with Glade Road on that issue about when traffic is backed up that they're not using coming back through those subdivisions. Any update on that?
Nothing yet. We're still working with the town. That's within jurisdictions of, so the town will have to do some kind of no-through traffic but thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, because that's definitely
The mayor had
something that
mentioned something to me about that, and we'll work with Randy Wingfield and Andrew Warren on that.
Very good. And just a reminder, since it's summer and a good time to remind people of work zone safety, and of course, in July 1st, the slow down move over law expanded.
That's right, yeah.
So for those of you that might not be aware, currently that's any for red, white, blue, or amber flashing lights, we slow down or move over, but as of July 1st, that will also include any disabled vehicles with amber flashing emergency lights or flares set up as well. We will need to slow down and move over for
correct.
safety. Okay, very good. Any follow-up? As always, Mr. Clark,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you. All right. Next up, public hearing Board of Supervisors' intent to adopt a resolution amending the FY 2023-24 budget by more than 1% of the total expenditures shown in the currently adopted budget by adding carryover funding appropriated in FY 23 for various county projects, purchase orders, capital funds, and various school operating and capital funds that were not completed at year end, not to exceed $165 million. So we will have that open that public hearing. I do not have anyone signed up to address the board on that public hearing, but each citizen would, if anyone would like to come forward, they'll have 4 minutes to address the board on this public hearing. Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing. Next up, public address. The Board of Supervisors allows citizens to present comments on issues deserving of our attention during public address at each of the meeting. Each speaker will have 4 minutes, whether speaking as an individual or a representative. Please begin by stating your name and address. Debate between speakers and members of the audience will not be allowed. Speakers may leave any written statements or comments to the supervisors with the board clerk. Speakers will be judged out of order should the speaker engage in any personal attacks, use of profanity, or abusive language, or debate with the audience and not address the supervisors. We do have a sign-up sheet. I do not have anyone signed up to speak, but if any citizen would like to come forward, they will have 4 minutes to address the board. You need to start by stating your name and address. Seeing no one come forward, we will close public address. Addendum.
No addendum this evening, Madam Chair.
Items of consent.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Very good. New business. Contract agreement, county administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchikowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
So it's official. November 1st. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Congratulations.
I started to make the motion, but then I figured I'd be called out of order if I did.
You can
Attorney's
do,
not here.
you can do that next year.
Okay.
Very good. All right.
Congratulations.
Appropriations and transfers. This is a total increase in the FY '24 budget due to appropriation itemized. Well, maybe I've got that wrong. Am I saying that correctly?
I think you did.
Yes, okay. Total increase of FY '24 budget due to appropriation itemized below is $565,728. A budget amendment public hearing is required because the amount of the cumulative appropriations does not exceed 1% of the currently adopted budget. Parks and Recs maintenance truck, $85,000. Emergency services one-time costs, $138,728. Federal ARPA grant for law enforcement, $342,000. For a total general fund of $565,728. The resolution also makes the following transfers. $1,763,148 is transferred for the Fire and Rescue Reserve Fund to Roanoke Fire Department, $1,113,148, and Blacksburg Fire Department, $650,000 for equipment purchases approved by the Fire and Rescue Commission. $320 is transferred for general contingencies to the MPO to cover local match requirements for FY '24. $35,000 is transferred from the Sheriff's Department, and $22,111 is transferred for special contingencies to the ACAC to cover the cost of one new shelter assistant position. $19,560 is transferred from special contingencies to the Commonwealth Attorney to cover the cost of the victim witness salary and benefits. And read what that is. $10,544 is transferred from special contingencies to the Human Resources Department to cover the cost of salary and benefits costs. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Under the emergency service portion of this, approved budget to be funded with undesignated fund, general fund balance, Funds will be used to purchase dual certified gear used on motor vehicle crashes and fire scenes. We hire fire department or we hire EMS?
EMS. It's to equip those trucks with equipment should they need it.
Huh?
It's to equip those trucks with equipment should they need it.
Before we approve this, I think we need to wait till next meeting so this board can vote to hire fire departments.
We're not hiring fire departments.
Why they need gear?
Why is what here?
Why they need gear for fire service and or or car wrecks?
I think you're.
Yeah.
Where it says, like, is that for?
It's not to respond. A rescue squad, a paid first responder may encounter a scene where there is a fire and they still need to help extricate or help deal with the victim. That's what the equipment's for. It's not,
Number one, rescue cannot deal with extrication because they don't have water on their vehicles.
Do we have some clarification on what this equipment is?
do you have?
I don't have more information than that. We can get more for that. If you want to take this one item off and approve the rest of the resolution, we could do that.
Is that the $4,934?
No, that's for the training equipment. I don't know. I need to, it would be in the uniform amount, I believe, the $22,185, but there are other items in that as well.
So of that 138,000 includes all of that.
Yes, that's correct.
And so is it easier for just us to hold that off until we get, or can we separate the one item, or what is easier to do?
We could certainly pull that, the
138.
138.
Until we get some clarification on what that is?
The explanation I received, which is very broad, is it's just to have equipment on a truck if they needed it when they come up on a scene. But beyond that, I don't have any more detail.
Would that be an agreement for us to
Amend the motion.
detail?
I'm okay with putting it off until we get more information, but it sounds to me like this is just additional safety equipment to protect our paid EMS people when they get into a dangerous situation. So I don't see a problem with it. Do you have a problem with the, because they're not police officers either, but they're asking for ballistic vests.
Well, and that's another thing. If we're gonna get them vests, we need to get them for all volunteers. All of them.
I don't have a problem with that. Have they asked for them?
Not that
No.
I know
I mean, the
of.
point that I'm making is we haven't debated that. So you seem upset, but we haven't debated whether or not we should provide it for all volunteers. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with allocating these funds either, and I don't have a problem with holding off until our next meeting so we can get more information.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
So, can we do it like this? Like, since I made the motion, can I agree to take that part out, or do we have to have
Just do a friendly amendment to your motion.
To
Before
remove
we
that.
go that way, I did have a question. In addition, I wanted on the transfer for fire and rescue, the $650,000 for Blacksburg Fire, and then the $1.1 million. What are we buying? What is that?
Trucks.
It's a new, my understanding from Fire and Rescue Capital is it's $1.1 million for a new response truck for Reiner. I believe it's used in crashes as well. It's not a crash truck per se, I don't think, but
I believe that it is to replace a crash truck. I think it has crash truck equipment and
Yes.
water also on it, which the one that's being replaced, I understand, does not have water on it.
So this is a replacement truck? And what is our policy for,
Generally, the Fire and Rescue Capital Committee receives requests from the agencies, and then they forward them to you for action. Their recommendations are forwarded to you. The county doesn't have a policy with regard to mileage or calls or that kind of thing at this point.
our need? I mean, we have several fire departments. Not that I'm saying we don't need the truck, just a little bit more want to know the detail and process. I mean, that's almost a whole cent for one truck. Is that the average cost for a truck? I don't know, Mr. King.
It is now.
It is now.
It is now because, and if they order these, you're 3 years out getting them. The truck that we're replacing is an equipment truck.
Well,
I got,
one thing we might look at in the future is, do we need to, like how the schools have a policy about replacing their buses? Maybe in the future, we look at, how we replace vehicles. I mean,
Yeah,
that's something we could look at.
And I think it has a lot to do with, and I may be wrong on this one, but, I've heard departments talk about equipment or vehicles that have been replaced that are perfectly fine, and they have low mileage on them. They don't get used that often, but they're still just as expensive. But we get tied up into the insurance companies and how they look at equipment and how that affects homeowners' policies. Because if fire departments are responding with old, outdated equipment, that is going to affect your insurance rate. We, very fortunately, in this county, we keep our equipment in pretty good shape, but it probably wouldn't hurt to, I'm going to bring that up at the Fire and Rescue Commission, that maybe we need to look at other factors, and I don't know if there's a way to, I don't know what the agency is that works for the insurance companies that do that type of evaluation, but maybe we can get some parameters from them. What are they actually looking for, so that we're not replacing trucks that we could hang on to for a few more years, instead of letting them go when they're perfectly fine because they've reached an age, but yet they're still in working condition. So that may be something that's worthwhile. Now, when the committee meets and looks over these vehicles, we give them the money for that purpose, and that's what it's there for. So I think there's a sense of, we've got it, well, let's get it.
that's
If we
what
have the
that
money,
penny and a half
let's-
has been each year. Yep.
and so let's get it. But I don't know, that may be something that needs to be revisited and maybe tweaked a little bit for maybe some certain exceptions. It probably won't be the rule, the general rule, but for maybe a piece of equipment like this, I don't know what the status is on how many miles or how old it is, but it sounds to me like the replacement has more features on it that would be helpful. So I think that's probably where that's coming from. So
I think whatever policy that comes about has to have a time limit, hopefully, on it. It sounds like there's still supply chain issues,
Yes.
at least making that type of equipment.
It's
But
at
hopefully
least 2
that,
years on a truck.
right, hopefully that won't always be the case moving forward.
Yeah,
So
and
I can understand ordering something 3 years ahead. Do they really need the $1.1 million in order to order it? I don't
They
know.
can't order it if you don't appropriate the funding.
Okay.
yes.
Thank
And
you.
they have submitted their specifications to our office to order these 2 vehicles.
And what do we do with the old fire equipment truck?
we ask the other fire and rescue agencies if they need the equipment that's being replaced, and if they don't, then we surplus the equipment. Sometimes there's a need, if it's a certain kind of vehicle, a first response vehicle or that kind of thing, we ask the county departments as well if they want the vehicle before we surplus it online. And then the funding goes back to this fire and rescue reserve that they can reallocate in the future to equipment purchases. Some years they don't allocate all of the funding to specific vehicles, and in that case, it rolls back into the general reserve fund as well and just builds on that for the following year.
So when you say for the old vehicle, we'll ask other departments, are you saying they could take equipment off the truck? Because that's kind of the reason we're replacing it is because it's all outdated, or?
The equipment mainly stays on the new truck.
They usually transfer equipment from the previous.
So it's
truck
just
to
the
the new
truck itself.
Yeah,
It's
the
got
chassis,
too many miles, or it's a year.
Motor chassis, yeah.
Or
There are
something.
times when another agency accepts the vehicle that one has gotten replaced because maybe that other agency doesn't make as many calls, or their vehicles are older than that one, those kind of things. I think the Capital Committee talks about that as well, which other agency might need the vehicle.
Within our own county.
Yes.
Oh, I guess I'm a little confused. If the truck doesn't meet the insurance standard because of mileage outdated or something, why would it be good for one department if it's not good for that department?
Well, it's not saying it don't meet the insurance standards. It's just, you get a turn, then Mary gets a turn, and I get a turn. See what I'm saying? It's whoever's turn comes up. Is that right?
I don't go to those meetings.
Is that
You
right?
get a turn to purchase equipment?
The capital funds are allocated and they rotate through the departments. And on occasion, for example, one department will say, my equipment's in good shape this year. I don't need the money. They'll roll it to the next due department. But that has traditionally been the Capital Committee of the Fire and Rescue Commission that has recommended that to the board each year. The county has not had an active role in determining the status of the vehicles. We've depended on the Fire and Rescue Commission to make those recommendations.
And the vehicle that is being replaced, it may be in better shape than other vehicles that other departments have. So, no, it still may be a step up for another department. So, it can be used.
Okay, so I guess I'm asking, I would need some clarification on the policy, because if one department needs something more than the other, but it's not their turn,
They have to wait.
they have to wait, but the other department could get a newer vehicle, and then we just pass the older vehicle down if it was usable to that other department?
Well, as Craig said, if one department needed one worse than another one, then the department it's up. A lot of times, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of times the department that's in line to get one will say, look, ours is good, let them have it.
They'll
They work
pass.
together.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Okay.
They work together.
The challenge right now, and this came up earlier too, is equipment has just skyrocketed in cost. These vehicles, most every emergency vehicle, fire apparatus, I don't know that many are going to be under $1 million anymore. That's just where we are with that.
And so that is the recommendation comes from the fire and rescue, and and then comes to us for appropriation. Do they usually present so that this whole board, I think it would be very beneficial for us to.
This is what we get.
It comes through the Fire and Rescue
I
Commission.
think it'd be really beneficial if I don't know how often y'all do, but maybe travel around to the county departments and look at them.
Mm-hmm.
We got nice stuff. Do you think it'd help if we had Mark Bauer come up here and talk to us? Maybe he could enlighten us on the,
Insurance requirements.
I think that would be great.
maybe he could enlighten us on
why there are certain requirements.
Right.
And just like a capital, like we do our capital improvement 5-year plan, have an idea, because just like anything else, we as a board need to know, what happens if we have 2 fire departments that are in great need of 2 fire trucks that are $1.1 apiece each?
They wait. They decide between the two of them which one is going to get the truck one year, and the other agency waits till the next year. That's what they currently do. I think they have a schedule somewhat, and sometimes they know that a couple high-cost vehicles will be coming in an out year, and they'll plan for that and not replace enough vehicles that they spend all of the reserve money in a single year, and then in a future year, they know that it'll roll into the reserve, and they fund the trucks like that. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'm thinking it would be a good idea that moving in the future may be and beneficial for the whole board, that we have an idea that we're on the same page of knowing what the needs are going to be, how much we have in reserves, and our citizens to know where that, $1.1 million is a lot of money, and most citizens probably don't know that that's the average cost of whatever type of fire truck this is.
I do think with the cost of apparatus where they are, I mean, anytime we have capital needs that are within the county control, if you will, we bring those to you, and I think it would be helpful. It's not saying you're taking that away from the Fire and Rescue Commission, but you're just asking them to affirm with the board the plan.
Right. Yeah, this is not that, I'm not
Right.
saying we don't need
Right.
the fire truck. I think it would just be beneficial for us to have that policy, just like any other department comes and explains to us, and so that we know too what the needs are coming, and so we can better prepare as well. Talking about also the insurance, I think that would be great for us to know if it affects our homeowners' insurance, what are they rating on us, the age of the equipment, the mileage, the number of calls. I'm sure that also will go in with certification and training and how many, response times and
Look
all
at
of
all of
those
that.
things.
Proximity of fire hydrants
Yeah.
is one.
Oh, fire
Yeah.
hydrants.
That's important.
That's a big one.
And we
Fire
may,
stations.
we may even be able to get some of that information right from some of the members in the Fire and Rescue Commission. I know many years ago, Chief Wells did a presentation and talked about why or how age and condition of equipment affects homeowners insurance. And it was very interesting. I learned a lot from that. But that was probably 25 years ago that he did that. So it's probably about time we had an update.
What other things under insurance do they, other than equipment, and you said fire hydrants?
The proximity to
The
a
proximity of the fire
station.
hydrants
Yeah.
affect ISO ratings as
Yeah.
well. Response time,
Response time?
the other items that you mentioned, yes.
ISO also considers how much water you got in a building,
Mm.
your tankers, and how much water trucks can haul.
Oh, that's good. I think that's something of the, if the board feels that, I'd be very interested to know how we're rating, and of course, if we can do improvements to make sure that our homeowners are having a better insurance rate for that. I know I'd asked before, does the county have, I know we have a number of volunteers, a list of volunteers in the certifications and training. Do we?
We do not.
We do not have,
Does not.
no, the volunteer agencies maintain the information.
Is that something that the Fire and Rescue Commission can start working on to make sure that we
Yes, I'd be glad to bring that up.
that we
It'd be
start?
something we could ask each department, like Craig said, each department keeps up with training. We could ask them to forward it to Fire and Rescue or Craig or.
That would be good.
Yeah, that would be excellent that way, especially because we appreciate the time, the training, the effort, the sacrifices that our volunteers make being away from home, because there are volunteers, and that would be also opportunity for us to recognize and thank them, because I'm sure this training, takes time, the certifications that they have to keep up with, all that EVOC classes and stuff of that nature. So that would be great if we could go ahead and start accumulating a list of all of our volunteers and all of their training and all of that good stuff as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so do we need an amendment to,
Or
a friendly amendment?
Or do you want me just to, I mean, I can just say that I'm willing to, in my original motion, leave that part out, if you want me to.
Okay, I have a,
Not the fire truck thing,
No,
but
it's
the other thing.
The 138,000
Right.
plus under emergency service.
And I agree with that.
Okay, yeah.
motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Good. Carryover American Rescue Plan Act funds.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
FY '23 Carryover County Capital Fund project balances and purchase orders.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
FY '23 General Fund incumbents carryover.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
FY '23 carryover for general fund earmarked balances.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Donations FY '23 balances carryover.
So moved. Second.
Whichever you
Second.
want.
Any discussion? I'd just like to say, we have wonderful citizens that contribute and work hard for these fundraising projects and donations. Madam Clerk, you'll please please call the roll.
Ms. Bone?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Chair Blevins?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Very good. All right. County Administrator report.
I just have one thing this evening, and you may have seen this as a news flash earlier. It does appear that the Fourth Circuit Court has stayed the resumption of construction on the Mountain Valley Pipeline through the Jefferson National Forest. I don't think it stays it. I was trying to read while we were here a minute ago. That just happened late this afternoon, but it does appear the construction through the forest has been stayed by the court, so they'll have to resolve that. Other than that, I'll recognize Angie to see if you have anything to add this evening.
I don't have anything this evening, thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have.
All right, members' reports. Let's start off with Supervisor Fitchukowski.
Sad and good news at the same time. The boards on the Shawsville Rescue Squad have pretty much terminated everything. And one of the things I kept hearing from citizens was that when the property sold, that the citizens felt that the money should stay in the community. It was raised in the community, whether it was from their donations or whether it was through their taxes and this board. And they were very, very adamant about that. And there's a lot of history there, and that's the sad part, that it's gone. And as we look forward to putting a new building up, it's something that I have mentioned. I know I've mentioned it to Brad, that it would be nice to have a plaque on there dedicating the building to all the volunteers through the years that the Shawsville Rescue Squad was in force. But the good news is I've been told that the money from the sale is all staying in the community. It's going to establish scholarships for kids to pursue first responder careers, and it's going to be handled by the Eastmont Community Foundation. And I can't think of a better group to do that. They already handle several scholarships, and I think this is just a great addition to that. Another recipient of that sale property money is the Elliston Fire Department. And so I'm sure they're going to look forward to buying some new equipment that they can use. So it stayed in the community, and that's a good thing. So everybody should be glad about that. That's all I got.
Excellent. Supervisor King.
I have no report, but I would like to say to everybody that contacted me last few weeks about some issues that I do appreciate everyone that reached out to me, and I do appreciate every time somebody calls me and gives me support, that I do feel my way in some issues on this board, and I'm not going to change my mind about it, but I do understand that some citizens really support me on this, and I do support everybody in my district. Thank you again for calls.
Supervisor DeMotts.
No report.
Supervisor Bone.
No report.
Supervisor Shepherd.
No report.
Vice Chair Biggs.
Just a reminder that the race for ACE is set for Saturday, August 5th at 9 a.m. at Blacksburg High School, cross-country track. And you can still register.
Or sponsor. Yeah. Or sponsor. Just a few things. One, to look forward to the employment engagement River Turtles baseball game this Friday with our employees. Also wanted to do a congratulations and best wishes to Helen Roll on her retirement. Over 30 years of service as Commissioner of Revenue, and she's done an excellent job. I wanted to, and I missed her retirement party, but Helen, we so greatly appreciate you and wish you the best. Mary, wanted to thank you for covering for me at the last board meeting. Also want to do a shout out and congratulate and best wishes to Deputy Doug Atkins on his retirement from the Sheriff's Department of over 23 years of service and dedication. We wish him well. And wanted just to also, this weekend is the start of the Sinkland Sunflower Festival, so everyone get out to the Sunflower Festival. And a congratulations on the reopening of the Christiansburg Walmart, and they were so kind to do a community check to the Sheriff's Department for the DARE program, so that was great, community partners. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
I think you beat Mary's time from the last.
Oh, quick.